Thank you for attending the webinar today, everybody. My name is PJ. I work with CLMA as their IT specialist. Today we're going to be talking about calendar items and meetings and how to go about setting those up for your chapter. So everybody on the call today is actually part of the chapter leaders. They are, for the most part, they should be part of their board as well too for their respective chapters. So we set up a couple things for those for the admins of your chapter groups as well as setting up events. So if you go to your event to begin with, if you go to your chapter to begin with, so if you can go to chapters, My Chapter Communities, that's always in the navigation. It's also on the internal homepage here. So if you go to your chapter communities, you'll go to this page and you'll see the different chapters that you are a part of. So you click on one of those chapters. Everybody on this call should be an admin. You should have access to all of these items. If you want to just add a calendar item, something that is such as a deadline or a reminder rather than an actual event with registration, you want to make a calendar item to do that. To do so, if you go to your chapter community homepage, so you have your chapter, but then within the site you actually have your community where you have all the different tools for your chapter as well too. If you are on this page and click Community Calendar, you come to your calendar listing. Top here you'll see Add Calendar Item. Click that, and you'll be taken to this next screen where you have two different options. You have the option for external, and you have the option for private. Private is just for your community members, as listed here. That means that you will see it in the on the internal homepage. The internal homepage for the site. So if you're a member of the chapter, that will pull in here, but not for anybody else. So if you are not a member of that chapter, you won't actually see anything listed under the private calendar, one of the two options. The other option is for external. For the most part, you're going to want to be using this. You can promote different things, people who are outside of your chapter, so you're not just limiting the exposure of the calendar item to your chapter members. So regardless of which one you select, after this, you want to click OK. From the screen, you can see there are different options. You actually want to title the event, add in the descriptions along with other pieces of information. You can actually set your time zone, because up in the top here, if you are in a different time zone, say I am in Central, but somebody's actually on the East Coast, whatever time I actually set here. So if I set it for 9 a.m., if you are on the East Coast, this time will actually adjust for that individual in their own settings and actually reflect it as 8 p.m. so they see that time as well too. So these details, if we go back to the internal homepage, and let's actually use this one as an example. No, let's not use that one as an example. I apologize. Give me that. All right. So as you click on the item on the internal homepage, if it is just a calendar item, you'll actually get these different items displayed to you for the person that's actually viewing that calendar item. At the end, if you click OK, it'll automatically post to your chapter calendar, so it will appear here. It'll appear here, and it'll also appear on your on the internal homepage. And that is for calendar items. That's for private. It's also on the external calendar. That first step, it'll actually appear also on the chapter events page as well too. And then you can see some of those details that are pulled in here as well too. And then you'd also see on that same screen, you can see these same items that were displayed as the different options for your filling out the information for that calendar event. So once you click OK on that calendar event and actually create that event, it pulls into all the different places. If it's external, only the external events pull into the chapter event page. The reason for that is because this is really meant to be promotional, so you can go through and see maybe neighboring chapters and those types of things as well too. You'll actually see some of this information is actually being pulled in here as well too, in the sense that you have, for this one example, as an example, this is the, let's use this one actually. This is the name that was entered, and then this was the link that was entered. This is actually a separate event, even though they, I think, believe they're related. So if you actually click on the name too, you'll also see some of the same information that's on this page as well. That gives more detailed information actually on the event itself, including the location, the description, the link, contact name, attachments, etc. So this is just a listing that you actually want on the calendar between the site and then the chapter events that's going to the external calendar when you're initially creating it. But that's just the listing. That is slightly different than actually creating an event that has registration. To do that, we've actually set up a few different things. There will be materials and a full walkthrough of what we're about to talk about, including some additional setup, just because we didn't want to have some of these items set up before the call, just on the chance that somebody would stumble onto it. We wanted to wait until after the call to set some of these things up. So if you log in right now, some of these items you won't see, but you will see by the end of the week when we actually distribute the instructional document to everybody on the call today. Let's actually go back to chapter. In fact, I'm going to go, you'd go here, normally get your chapter. I'm actually going to go to my profile to get to my sample chapter that I have hidden. And then from here, what you'll actually do, you'll see a familiar menu in the sense that you go to Actions and go to Community Administration. Now, some of the other things too that we're going to walk through when we're doing this. You may see other options as well too, but there are, as we get into this, you'll see there are several menus, and then some of this too, we've also identified areas of the system that will create the best registration experience for attendees and volunteers alike. We know that other options are going to be displayed throughout some of those various menus too. So we're actually asking that you select just the options that we're showing, and then you don't select other options that we're not showing today. There's a reason for that. It's simply just in going outside some of these settings. It could create, I should say, undesired results, I guess would be a way to say it. And they could also create issues with the registration setup. It's basically because of the complexity of the system that there might be some of these things you could get into that wouldn't be a quick fix for. And so that could create some issues with your events, with your registration, and because resolving some of the issues might not be possible. It might be a matter of them starting over, which wouldn't really be an issue if you already had people registering. And then resolving some of those issues too, they might just require some additional time and some additional resources as well too. Getting into the event itself, how we've gotten here again, just to back up, we were at the community. We're on the community landing page itself, Actions, Community Administration, and you probably saw me going towards View Events. View Events, click on that. This is an event that I've already set up. And then what you can do is each chapter is actually going to have their own template set up, just to make it easier for you and make some things already set up prior to needing to go in and actually create this. And then that way too, if you have certain registration rules that's different than the main template that we've created for everybody, such as additional registration types, most groups are going to have that year in, year out. And so that way, if you set it up the 1 year and you create those additional registration types beyond what we've set up for our initial template, you'll have those in the following year that you can copy over as well too. So it's really nice in the sense that you can copy an event, so you don't actually have to start from scratch each year. However, there are going to be some things you can copy over and some things that we ask or recommend that you don't copy over for the reasons that we already discussed as well too. As you probably guess, and then again, just to back up to how we got here as well too. Not that page. We had community administration, and then from there, in the first tab here, we see view events. And as you probably guessed, we're going to say copy event. So there are a couple of templates that we've created for this one. For the most part, we're just going to actually be using the chapter event template, as it's called for this community. So we're going to select that. And we're going to select OK. From here, you can actually select what you're going to copy over. You want to name the event itself. So this is template. Obviously, you want to call it whatever the name of your event might be: the fall meeting, the late summer meeting, the summer soiree. You call it whatever you need to at that point. You can create an event short name. The short name, for the most part, just pulls into reports. So this main name is what's going to show up the different resources we looked at already between the chapter events page and the page on the internal homepage. Again, just like with the calendar item, you can create your time zone that it's going to be in, and then the start and end times as well too. The date field below that is if for some reason you needed to have any type of description, such as social event will go to question mark when you don't know when it'll end, those types of things. So then there are some of the, there's some things that you can copy over here as well too. And there's some of these things that just won't be used with the chapter events as well too. So it goes back to what we're talking about, how there are certain things that that we're asking that you actually don't copy over, just to make sure that you can have the best experience for yourselves and for your attendees. We're recommending that you do not copy over the event details. The session setup, since we won't be using these tools. And these, there will be a screenshot with these actually listed, the items that should be copied over and should not, actually listed in the instructions that are displayed or that are distributed to this group as well too. So we're asking that you just leave security, registration types, prices, options, guest subscriptions, registration layout, landing page labels, which will make these items will make more sense in a little bit as we're going through and actually showing you what these are, and surveys. So we're asking that you just leave those checked and then click OK. So once you click OK, you'll be taken to this screen. From this point on, you'll actually have a couple of different things. You'll actually have, in the top right corner, you'll now see an admin menu. If you click on events, you'll actually see a full listing of events actually that you have access to that you've created. For this user, you're going to see 2, just because I had done the trial run earlier on today. And so you can get back into that same event, as you can see, by going there as well too, if you don't want to go straight through your community. So admin, events, and then you can select the event. Another way to do this too is if you are actually in your chapter communities, you can click on the event. Again, I'm going to it a different way than what I'm showing. Under community administration, and if you do events, how you originally got here, you'll now see that I actually have 2 of these because I created a new event as well too. So you can get to that same event through that same menu that you got to the copy of the event in the first place. So now that I'm in the event, I can also continue to make changes. So one of the main things you're going to want to change are the event details. These are similar to the details that you're actually seeing for the calendar items that we looked at earlier. You can have a short description if you need hotel information, and there are other pieces too that will pull into an informational page that can be displayed. If you needed to adjust the times from when you actually copied over the event, you can do that here as well too. We're going to actually come back to this page in a little while, because there will be some additional things you have to do once you have some other items set up. The next item that that you will need to go to is actually setting up the registration types. So under event management, registration types, prices. You can see here that in this template, so we didn't change the name, so it's still the template, that you actually have members and non-chapter member rates. What you can do is if you want to rename them. So if this is for, this my community here was called the sample chapter group. If I wanted to change the name to sample chapter members, people who are actually part of this chapter, and distinguish that, then I can change the name. These will actually hide agenda builder order to be selected, and then you don't want to select that as well too. You want to leave this at 0 because that means there won't be a limit for how many people can register for this. Click OK. And then how I got there before, the same screen you'll see in a second. Event management, registration types, prices. You'll see now that this name has changed. So the screen that you were just seeing a minute ago, once you edit and then click OK, takes you to the same screen that I just clicked on here for view. So again, going back to that, event management, registration types, prices, you can click view to see the different items. And then this is the same spot where you actually can see the prices. So as you can see, there is a start date and an end date for the price. What that means is that as of July 31st, this price will no longer be available. Always add a price, but keep in mind that you need to pay attention to the times in the sense that when one ends, you need the other one to begin, and then after the end date for the last price, it's actually not available at all anymore. So you can do that same thing. You can go back up to event management, registration types, prices. Or if I go back to this screen as well too that I was just at, you can also click all registration types and it takes you back to that exact same price, or that exact same page, excuse me. So I was just looking at the sample chapter members. If I want to change the price then for non-chapter members, if I want to change the name, I can go to edit. But if I'm changing the price, I click view. And again, this is where you would go about editing that. So for this template, we had it set at $20. If you wanted to edit that, you click edit. You can make it 50. And you can also change the dates based on when your registration should close or when the event is available as well too. Click OK. And that change has been saved so that registration is now $50. There are some other items such as who can register with this type. We're asking that you leave those as they are because we do have things set up a certain way to make a better experience, and I can touch on that in just a little bit as well too when we after we go through different settings that would change. So there are also some other items that you're seeing, such as rules. So what these are is this is actually setting up so that you cannot see this rate, because you don't want people who aren't members of your chapter, you don't want people who are members of your chapter accidentally registering for the non-chapter rate and accidentally paying $50. So similarly, again, event management, registration types, prices, all registration types being the same screen you go to. If we actually look at the sample chapter members, so this is people who are members of your chapter, you don't want them to see the guest rate, and you don't want people who aren't members to get the free member rate. So this rule here for the non-chapter members is actually hiding, I think I may have said this incorrectly a minute ago, this is actually hiding the member rate of $0 from people who aren't members of that chapter. So the rules are set there for a reason. They're set there so that you, basically you get the right rate for the right people, so that there are people who aren't members of your chapter accidentally getting that chapter rate is the easy way to say that. So we ask that you do leave those, but I wanted to explain what they were, just for for sake of explanation, so that you know that it's not something you want to touch, because you want to make sure and keep that intact. So we're editing the registration price through event management, registration types prices, and then the other item too you want to change is registration emails. There is a default email. This email is what goes out when people actually complete the registration, when they pay an invoice. You can edit that to make it what you want, but at this point it says thank you, and it pulls in your event name, and it gives them information, and it also pulls in the name automatically as well too of the group. So one of the things you can see right now is that this is currently queued. It's on hold. It's not released. You will not actually be able to open up registration until you have the registration email actually live. So let's actually do a couple things to review some things too, in the sense that you have to have your registration types set up. These will already be populated. You just need to edit these. Again, your under event management, your registration emails, there it is, has already been set up as well too, the template, but it's not released. To do that, you would click Release here, and then you could unlock that if you wanted to make new edits to it. To make, right now your registration can't be live though, because you actually have to enable registration. And I'm purposely leaving this on hold for right now so that we can just demonstrate something in a moment. So you need to go to Event Setup Marketing and then Details and click Edit. As you can see, registration cannot be opened. Registration completion email is not released. So it's what I was saying earlier, in the sense that, and also to review how we're getting there, event management, registration emails, and then release. It has to be released. Go back to event setup marketing, details. There's a couple other things. Even though I'm going to go in here and edit, and I want to be able to check a box here to open registration, it still won't let me actually check this box, because there are a couple other things you need to do as well too. The information actually has to be visible. And this is something that I have used to struggle with quite a bit, even, and I'm supposed to support the system. In event setup details, again, you have event information visible. You have to check this box. You have to go down to the bottom, click OK, so that it saves that setting. Now event information is visible. When I go back into that exact same screen, I now have a checkbox that I can open registration. Open registration. Select OK, and your registration is now open. So we've been going around in these menus quite a bit, although we've only been going to certain aspects of those menus. There are a couple of different items that are up here as well too. If I go to Home, that takes me to the exact same thing as if I go to Admin, which you now have since you're now admin of events, and then see the items that you actually have administrative rights over. And then if you're in any of these menus as well too, and do this Event Home, it's going to take you back to the same screen that we're just looking at. This is the screen where you actually get your registration link from. These other items you won't need to use, but the event registration homepage is the the registration for your event that you've just set up. So right now there's just the timing isn't there, so we don't have a registration type. So that's where you would go. If you are not a member, so going back to the rules for the registration types, we have a couple of rules set up that we were talking about as well too a little bit ago. We touched on. So for chapter members, you have to be a chapter member to see the chapter member rate. If you're not a chapter member, you don't get to see the chapter member rate, and you get this one. So what we've done is we've actually, if you are, I'm actually going to log out and log into a different event here in just a moment. But if you are not a member of this chapter, you get the non-member rate. But how do they know you're not a member? Basically, you have to create a guest account before you can register for the event. We did that for a couple of reasons. We did that for your own sake. That way it's going to be easier for you to market to people who aren't your members later on. So you can market to them later on and potentially get more chapter members. You can make sure because they have an account, they'll have saved information, they'll be able to log back in and maybe add on or do any other items too with the registration. And then the other piece of that too is that you can also market them to them next year. If they came to your event this year, stands to reason they're going to want to come to your event next year too. You can make sure and pull all their information to report them if they have an account and actually market to them directly that way as well too, because you have their information and all of that to use for marketing for next year's event. So if you are on that registration screen, in fact, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna log back in as somebody else so we can get to a different event here. Just one moment. Okay, sorry about that. So so this is kind of what I was referring to before in the sense that right now, this is a live event. Chicago chapter already has an event set up. So they have an event set up, and then because I'm not logged in, it's telling me that I don't currently have an account, that I can create a guest account, or I can join CLMA, pay membership dues, and contribute to the organization. Or I can, if I'm already a member, I can simply log in to begin registration. So now that I'm logged in, it's taking me back to the same screen. You can see that recommendation to create a guest account or join is actually removed. So now I actually have access to it. Instead of saying log in, I can register for this event. I believe I'm a member of I am. I had made myself a member of the Chicago chapter as well too. So you're seeing that I'm only seeing their one rate. I'm not seeing the non-member rate because the system recognizes, since I'm logged in, it knows who I am, and it knows that I am a member of the Chicago chapter. So it's only giving me the $0 rate. If I was not a member and I was another guest, it would not show me this rate and show me I believe their registration is $20. It would show me only the $20 rate based on who I am and logged in. And so that's, I kind of wanted to give you the full walkthrough of why we have those rules set up and the importance in knowing of why not to edit those beyond maybe editing the name if it came to that even, if we build on your event for next year. But I highly recommend not to change those just because otherwise your event could be, your registration could be affected and people might not have access to what they are supposed to. Let's actually go back out from here. Going back into the, we're now logged in. Going back to the chapter event. So the way you make that live between copying it, setting up the registration prices and the names, editing and activating the registration email, going to event setup, marketing, and details. From there, you need to make I went into a different event. You need to make it visible, and then you also need to open the registration, and then it'll actually be open. From there, if you go to this event home, which in this case, here we go. Then you would then have your registration homepage link that you can actually get and actually have people go to from there as well too. A couple other points that I will actually just touch on really quick before we pause for questions is that you can also look up who is registered for these events by doing manage registrations. Nobody's registered for this event, so you can look up registrations through here and see if maybe they didn't pay, maybe they just have an invoice is a possibility, and you'll see that then when you look up a registration. You can then somebody contacts you and they need to say edit there. They realize when they got their confirmation email their last name was spelled wrong. You can do that through here as well too. And since you would be an admin for this event, just as this user is, you actually have access to this. The other piece is registration reports. This ties into, as you can see, there are a lot of reports, but this ties into a lot of kind of what we were saying too. There are a lot of other things that, because the site is so configurable, a lot of this is not going to be used, and we ask that you simply stick to attendee export. As you can see, you can select if you want just one registration type, or if you want all of them, you can select that. Their paid status. Keep in mind, if somebody's not paid, you want to make sure they're paid before they can actually attend. So you want to select paid. Anybody who has $0 registration, such as the different chapter member registration types we've looked at so far today, are 0. It'll automatically go into a paid, not ask them anything. Just like with the other events, you can also, or the other reports, you can select the format you want it in. I recommend doing an HTML format just to make sure you have everything right first before you fill your computer up with Excel files. And then you can also select reports. You can also select the fields that you want for these reports as well too. And so you can select the different fields that you want as well too. You can run the report. You can even schedule the report if you actually want it sent to you at a certain time. So now we're going to pause for questions, and then after we cover some questions, we're going to go into a couple things about actually marketing the event. Okay. So one of the questions was, can you explain the difference between groups, communities, and chapters? And part of this might be me being an admin and working with the site as a whole. I tend to throw those terms around and forget that sometimes there's not context. So I apologize if I did a little too much today. So a chapter is what CLMA, basically your individual chapters, you know what chapters. But then the chapters all have a community. So just reactivating the screen here. And so you have your chapters, and then each chapter has a community. So when you actually go into here, this is what I refer to when I'm saying your community. That's where you actually have these different tools that you can use as the community on the site itself. So for example, the Chicago chapter, you have the event, and then you have the chapter has their own blog. I'm not sure why they have two. We'll have to look at that. They have a forum and file library as well too. Those are all tools that are in your community, which I'm referring to your community as the area on the website that you can go to collaborate, share resources, share benefits of being a member of that chapter as well too. How does a guest create a guest account? So I think it may have just come up before I showed the live demo with the Chicago chapter. If they are not currently logged in, when they get to that registration page, they could then create a guest account on that page. The option's right there when they go to register. If it is a guest account for another reason, it's just usually displayed at that point. Guests cannot be members of a chapter. You have to be a member of the national, the CLMA organization before you can be a chapter of the individual. I'm sorry, before you can be a member of the individual chapter itself. And so the guest account comes up when somebody wants to purchase a course or register for an event, and then at that time the option is provided to be a guest. Once you create an event, it does automatically get added to the feed on the internal homepage that we're looking at, and then the chapter events as well too. I believe I probably just didn't come back to that, but the ones I had created, I purposely set up, and so that they're not getting pulled into this, but for example, into this chapter events page. But for example, it was an actual event with registration that we had set up, and in doing so, we didn't have to add it to this page. This page is automatically set up so that if it is on your public chapters or your public calendar for any of the chapters, it will automatically be pulled into this page, as well as all events then get pulled into the internal homepage based on your settings. So if you had a private event and you're a part of a chapter, you would see it here. if the event is available to all website members, it would show up here as well too. How do registration payments work was another question. Once you complete the registration process, so once you click on click on the registration link to begin the registration process. Let's actually just go back to the chapter events and actually take a look at the Chicago event that we've used a couple times here. You can register for this event. You select your registration type. My information is then pulled in. You would have more information on not being an admin. And then you can go through the full registration process. Once you click Finish and confirm everything, and I will make sure and clear that out for anybody else from the Chicago chapter on the call. But at that point, if it was a paid registration, you would actually come to an invoice screen where you pay by credit card. You can print out the invoice to pay by check. Or you can also email the invoice to somebody if, say, you needed to email that invoice to somebody, say, like in your finance department, so they can pay for it as well, too. As far as how that actually gets to you, the payments are processed through CLMA's overall payment processor. And then I believe that in fact, I'll let Janae answer that question because she'll be the one handling that.
So once your event is completed, all payments will be processed, and within 10 days, that check or wire will then go into your bank account, and we have that set up automatically unless you've otherwise noted to us that you want it in check form.
So I hope that answered the question as far as how payments work. There was a follow-up question as well as refunds as well too. You can cancel registrations going into, if you're actually in the event, again, admin, events. If you actually go into the event and do manage registrations, you'll be able to cancel registrations from there. The actual processing of the refund will need to be handled through CLMA admin staff. How does it work if a member of another chapter wants to attend your event when a payment is required? Do they have to pay as a non-member, or do they get a member charge? Because there are dues associated with each chapter, the way we have it set up right now is that your, as the template that we're building off of, and for each individual chapter to build off of on their own, the way we have it set up with the rules is that if they are a member of your chapter alone, they can get the chapter member rate, but if they're not, they would still have to pay. That's simply because of the fact that if somebody is a member of another chapter, they're paying dues to that other chapter but not yours, you would be losing money by giving them free registration. If you did have some type of event where you wanted to invite all chapter members, we could make sure that change is there, but I would recommend staying with the template that's already been set up. And if for some reason that template there's a problem with it, we can help you out to make any of those small adjustments on a case-by-case basis. The instructions, and just a reminder in case I know some people jumped off the call when we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, the instructions will be sent out by the end of the week. There's a question about keeping the attendees info. You will be able to run reports based on whether they're a member or not, so that if you go into so if you have an event this year, if it's next year and you want to run a report on last year's event, you can go into that event and still run that report. That's not a problem to do.
I actually have a reporting instructional document coming out to chapter leaders next week in the chapter leader link. So keep an eye out for that. That will walk you through event registration reporting as well as membership reporting from your chapter community pages.
And then one last piece that we wanted to touch on. We already talked about the chapter events. We've already talked about the events on the internal homepage, but each chapter also has their chapter blog. What we're asking is that because an event is timely, because it's something that comes and then goes, it's something that you would have as an event, but then when the event's done, you wouldn't continue to have registration for that for obvious reasons. So the blog is the perfect venue to actually try and promote that. So not only do you have the chapter events calendar, you have the upcoming events on the internal homepage, but then on your individual chapter pages, everybody also has their chapter blog. So for example, Chicago, we've pointed out a couple times, has their event set up. They actually have on their blog, they have information on the event, how to get there, and a link to the registration itself as well too. So the blog is the perfect spot for that. You all have the tool. You do that within which we covered on the last webinar. So if you don't have the instructions on that, I would recommend revisiting the recording from the last webinar or the documentation from the last webinar. And it's also in the chapter leader file library as well too. And then promoting those items through your blog is the perfect venue for that. We are out of time, so I do apologize if there are additional questions. If there are questions beyond this, please contact Jenna or Janae, Personal LMA staff, and we'll make sure to get those individual questions addressed. Thank you.